All right, Brian, we're going to move on. We got housing affordability has just totally collapsed. Quote, has just totally collapsed. Economist says, this is from CNBC.
Just
would-be home buyers need to earn $113,520 a year to afford the typical home in the United States, which is 35% more than what the typical household earns annually, which is $84,000, according to new analysis by Redfin. In February of 2021, that was the last month when the typical household earned more money than they needed to afford the median income.
Wow.
So 3 years and 2 months ago, that was the last time when the typical household earned more money than they needed to afford the median home.
That was the just point.
That was the pivot point. So now at that same time in there, remember the key date, March of 2022. What did the Fed start doing in March of 2022?
They started the rates.
They started adjusting their Fed funds rate up. So housing costs are clearly outpacing the median household incomes, and that strains affordability. We see it here. We know you see it in real life as well. Now that's not the entirety of the story. So you also have to remember that there have been a lot more cash offers being made on homes right now, and that represents in some lower mortgage applications, in addition to the affordability or the inability for people to get approved. So that's kind of that there as well. In this though, the affordability really took a kick in the nuts October 2023, which we know is when mortgage rates hit their peak. That was when we were looking at 8%. People were not happy. I think it made everyone have that like hand on the hot plate reaction on the stove. Ooh, I got burned. I don't like that. And I think that right now we're going to pay the consequence for quite some more time.
Whoa, sorry about that.
Bless you.
Yeah, I mean, even with everything coming on, like the Fed still doesn't feel confident enough that I feel they're going to drop rates this upcoming meeting. We don't know, but it's just really tough to say with the economic data that's been coming out. I think they're going to be, very hesitant if they're going to make a move. And if they don't, I think we'll have a clear picture of what their next move is going to be, because I think dropping rates as low, taking it too fast and dropping rates sooner rather than later could also, create another issue. Or is the affordability is basically people are on the, everybody right now, I feel like, is pent up on the sidelines and they're waiting for rates to drop, which is the short-term problem. But as soon as that happens, even if your rates digress by 1%, that's going to cause a lot of prices to hold or go higher because of the affordability easing up a little bit, that all those people that were squeezed out are now able to get back in and afford at the level that they are comfortable with buying. And that's also something that I'm seeing a huge trend on, that if you're able to buy right now, a lot of people are starting to realize that this problem isn't so much with lending costs, but rather the houses that aren't there, and they aren't going to be there if more people are able to afford houses, because we see that the shortage of the houses aren't being built fast enough for the people that want to buy them. So we're in a very, very peculiar point, because I feel that if rates come down too fast, then we're right back to where we're at, and probably even worse.
Well, and what's happening already is that our median home price is like the highest it's almost the highest it's ever been. So it's now kind of like recaptured a new local bottom, if you will. I mean, I was looking at it right here. It says in this article, it's citing that the median price is now $412,000 in February of 2024. Now, just real quick math, if you don't take that in half, what's that? $206,000. So it's doubled in price, and that 206. You look back on your graph all the way down to 2014. So in a short 10 years, it's doubled.
Yep.
So in 10 years, it has doubled. And when you look at its accelerated pace, it happened in 2020, right? 2020, everything just kind of went through the roof all the way through into 2022. And then March of 2022, the Fed started hitting rates. And then we had that localized bottom in the summer of 2022 where prices kind of like people said bottomed out, but they really didn't retreat more than like 10%. And then now they went back on a little bit of a tear, and we're here now at 412. Again, back above 400,000.
If only I would have bought my first house right out of high school and held it for right now right now.
Terrible.
Different idea.
Yeah, job right out of high school. I bought a house. How much was it? $150,000. Well, the problem definitely correlates with the cost of money, because money was so cheap. If you look at the next chart, we have the average 30-year fixed rate mortgage was at the lowest ever in 2021. I mean, look, on the show, we have been, at that time, we were locking VA buyers at 2.25%. There were some loans, 15-year loans,
1.99
under 2%, 1.99.
I think we did a 1.875 on a 10-year.
You know, if you recall in your mind enough, just go back far enough, you can remember getting a 1.9 APR financing on a sedan, on a Toyota Camry. Oh, jeez. But there's a huge increase of cost since 2020.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sorry. Well, increase, decrease. Sorry, hold on. First of all, rates decreased and plummeted when the pandemic happened. Now, that spurned on lending. It spurned on 2 back-to-back years of the highest mortgage rates ever recorded. Not highest amount of loans funded on record.
$4 trillion.
At the same time, that then pushed prices because, I can afford more because borrowing the money is so cheap. So that then happened. And then you had the Fed subsequently starting to march rates back up in March of 2022, which then really put on the brakes. I'm saying put on the brakes, but it was over like an 18-month period. They're like ramp rates. So it was like kind of like this slow depression of the brake pad on the train, and then screech.
It's when rates started really going up and you started seeing it in the market. Oh, it felt like it literally went from day to night, and affordability just got literally rug pulled. It was ridiculous because rates just completely flipped. And everything just every day just red. It was like, when is this going to stop?
Well, and affordability is a really hard conversation because I know people that have been watching our show are having an affordability problem. I also know that here behind the scenes and on camera in our day in, day out operation, we're still getting people qualified in San Diego, which is one of the craziest places to be qualified right now. But I will also remind you, or if it's the first time, you're hearing this for the first time, but I'll also remind you, if you've been watching us, we are in a part of the country where there is a high density of active duty military, specifically Navy and Marines. And then you also have, I've been seeing a lot of active duty married couples who are both pulling BAH every month. They're getting housing allowance every month. That combined housing allowance easily helps them afford in San Diego. Now, outside of that, the other people I see getting approved are they're married or they have single income with low debt, but they have a high earning job. They've been in the career a long time. They even have maybe a second job where they own a business. So there are definitely people getting qualified, but the affordability for, let's say, the clock in, clock out, hourly wage, salary wage, that has been under crunch. I don't want that to go overlooked. I certainly don't want to dismiss that. That is a pain point for us.
Yeah.
Because we are we are still in a community that's what people do.
Yeah.
Not everyone around us is rolling around in Beamers and Mercedes and Rolls Royces and all that. There's a lot of people that are just working their butt off every day to make ends meet, and they can't afford a home, and I think that sucks.
And unfortunately, that's the people and that's the demographic that hurts the most through this type of market, because they're the ones that, once it becomes even a little bit affordable, it's still tough. But at the same time, once it's just completely out of reach, and it doesn't just, break their confidence, but it could just deteriorate that whole dream of them even wanting to buy a house in general, right?
Yeah.
And then that gets trickled down to, their kids, their family, their generation, and then they just don't think it's something that they're able to do, when in reality it's literally just maneuvering, sticking through it, planning accordingly, and really having a structured plan, knowing where your money is coming out, because all that's going to make a difference. But if you're willing to make that sacrifice, we have clients that have gotten in their houses, and then 2-3 years down the line, that house has helped them do so much, whether it's through a sale, through it's a refinance, and it's literally a stepping stool that they now come back to us and say, I'm telling all my family that they need to buy as well. And that's unfortunately how it should be. It is a sacrifice. It is going to be a little bit hard right now, but if you have the opportunity and the means and you can, give yourself that opportunity. Yeah,
and the article goes on and talks about how much it takes to be a potential buyer in the market, and how disproportionate the amount that you need is compared to what the average income is. And here's the thing that sucks about the average income. I think they were citing in the article said the average income they used for this article was like $84,000, something like that. Okay. But again, typical household earns annually $84,000 according to this new study. But let's just say it's $84,000 just for the sake of conversation. That means there's people that are still not making that, Brian.
Yeah.
There are people at 70, 65, 50, 45. There's like no chance, unless you're in the area where the pricing is commensurate to that as well. What's happening here in San Diego is that there are people making $70,000, and that's not enough. And that used to be enough. And I think the death of the American dream, if you will, is something that's very real. I think it's happening for a lot of people. I think it's going undiscussed publicly because they're embarrassed, ashamed, or just pissed. Okay, and then they also people don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So if you're ashamed, embarrassed, or pissed, like I get it, I understand. And if you don't know what to do, but you want to figure out what to do, then you got to ask. Ask, and we'll freaking figure something out.
That's where I feel the answer to a lot of problems lies in asking and not knowing that you need help in certain things, but not knowing how to ask or where to ask. When in reality, it's you have the ability and you have the information to be able to leverage your house if you have a property, but it's really getting that information and applying it to whatever it is that you want to do. Surrounding yourself with people that are doing something that you want to get into and leveraging your relationships more than anything right now, because it's a matter of fact, you're not getting by with one income, two incomes, minimum incomes. You're going to have to get creative if you want to stay here in San Diego, but that ultimately is an opportunity for you to prosper in life as well. So it's like, it's a tough road, but it's a very rewarding road as well.
And here's what I'll say too, and kind of my last thought on this is, and this is kind of attached to what a financial planner who was interviewed in this said. She's basically saying like, hey, like if you do get into a house and you can afford, like, what happens if you lose your job? Like, do you have 3 months of payment saved? Do you have 6 months of payment saved? Like, okay, so we had early talked about, how much you need to have as a down payment, closing costs, cover your agent if the agent's not going to get covered in the deal. And then do you still have reserves left over after all that's said and done? After you furnish the place, fix whatever you want, renovated, done all that, do you still have money left for 3 to 6 months of savings to be able to pay your mortgage if in case your job goes away? If you don't, and homeownership is not a good choice for you right now, figure out something else that you can put your money to work for you. I don't care if it's $50 a month or $100 a month that you need to put towards something that is growing. If it's not going to be in real estate, take some of that money that you would have been putting in real estate and put it into something else so it at least has a chance to grow.
You make such a good point because, I mean, you're talking about the affordability, but in the back of, a lot of buyers' head is like, what about my job stability? And that's something that, okay, if I do this, a lot of older people that I've been talking to, they're like, hey, I don't know if I'm going to have my job for much longer, so I don't know if I'm able to get, approved right now. And I'm like, hey, that's interesting that's coming into the conversation because before it was not something that would be brought up at all. But now it's like, I don't know if I'm going to have a job in 2 years, so I don't know if I can make the investment, 2 years, thinking down 2 years down the line. So that's also something that is very important as well.
Yeah. So I just thank you for giving me some space there. I just really wanted to make sure that, like, if you can't get in right now, and if you're choosing not to get in but you can, like, that's on you. That's fine. Mm-hmm. There's a reason you're waiting. That's fine. But if you're, if you're not going to get in the housing market, I'm also saying to you, what are you waiting for as far as your financial future is concerned? Get into something. If you need a financial planner or talk to an advisor, find someone that you can talk to that you can trust. Find something that's affordable for you to start something that has growth and compounding growth over the course of time that outpaces inflation.
Yeah.
All right.